Hello everyone, it's Bill Slocum. And in this short little video, I want to talk about customizing informational pop-ups. And those informational pop-ups are the call-out dialog boxes you get when you click on a feature in ArcGIS Online. But first things first, neither the National Park Service nor NC State University endorses or recommends any commercial products, processes, or services. This material may not be used for advertising or product endorsement purposes. This material is intended for educational purposes only. Neither the U.S. government nor NC State University warrants or assumes any legal liability or responsibility for the accuracy, completeness, or usefulness of any information apparatus, product, or process disclosed. Okay, customizing informational pop-ups. You do this within your web maps in ArcGIS Online. And there are three options that we'll look at here. We can enable those, configure those, and remove those pop-ups as well. So you do this all within a web map. So remember how to get to your National Park Service ArcGIS Online for Organizations account. Using your PIV card, you navigate to nps.maps.arcgis.com and log in with your PIV card. So let's talk about and let's look at those pop-ups real quick. I've already logged in here, and you can see I've logged in here with my credentials. And I'm going to go into my content because that's where I store all of my items in ArcGIS Online. And don't forget, I use folders. I recommend that you do those as well. Now, I created a base map in a previous video, but I didn't customize anything. I simply added some data. Well, let's open that up. And so you can see here, here's my item detail here. And I've got a lands resource division boundary. I've got some kilometer markers and some interpretive signs. I'm going to open that up in my map viewer. And while that's loading, you're going to see the data start to pop up. And remember, I saved this early. So save early, save often. And I want to explore these pop-ups. Let's zoom in here to Jamestown Island. I'm just going to hold the shift key down and drag a box around the island over here. And let's take a look at these interpretive signs, these little brown dots over here. Let's look at the legend. So you can see that my interpretive signs are these little brown dots, and my kilometer markers are these little red ones over here. But I want to go back to my content because that's how we're going to work on this. So let's click on one of these interpretive signs. Now in this interpretive sign here, you can see in this informational pop-up, it has a nice title. I've made it my own. It's Colonial National Historic Park, or NHP, Interpretive Signs. And all of my attributes are informative. It doesn't have underscores and it's not cryptic or anything like that. You can actually understand what is being represented here in this pop-up. And this is how you would like to develop all of your pop-ups. Let's take a look at those kilometer markers. I'm going to click on this one up here on the Parkway. And you can see here that I've got colo_km_ markers. Well, that's actually the name of the layer because I haven't changed anything. That's the default. And you can see here that I've got a comment 32, whatever that means, and some X and Y coordinates and some other attributes that the park uses. Let me try something here. I'm going to click on the title, go to the ellipses, and here you can see that I've got the remove and the configure of these pop-ups. So they're enabled already. That's something you don't have to worry about. Well, I want to configure this pop-up because I am not satisfied with the way it's represented on the screen. Now, here is a way to turn them off. If you don't want pop-ups to be visible, you can turn them off. That doesn't remove them, it just turns them off. And I'm going to change this title, and I'm going to give it Colonial NHP kilometer markers. Or Parkway markers. We'll call it Parkway. Parkway markers. And I'm going to say OK at this moment, just for demonstration purposes. I'm going to go back and click on that marker again in the center of the screen, and you can see that now my title has changed, but I still have all of these other cryptic attributes that I don't want people to worry about. So I'm going to go back, click on the title, click on the ellipses, and go to that configure pop-up. Now, I've got a list, and there's a lot of different choices you can work with here, but I'm going to use a list of field attributes, and here are all of my attributes that you see over in the pop-up, and I'm going to configure those attributes. Now, you can't really see it because it's grayed out, but people do not need to have the comment. And the X chord, you know, people might not know what that means, so it's an X coordinate. Maybe you want to use your GPS to go find it, but it's on the side of the road. So this is, again, demonstration purposes. Coordinate. And I'm not too concerned about the feature or the feature 2, or the S type. That is the source type, and it's something that the park uses. But for feature 3, I want to give it something more informative. And all of these markers have a marker ID on them. So I'm going to call it a marker ID and say OK. I'm going to close this, and now let's click on click OK, and again let's click on that marker. Now you can see that I have a title, Colonial NHP Parkway markers. I have the X coordinate, the Y coordinate, and the marker ID. Let me show you something else that's kind of clever. Let's go back into the configure that pop-up. I'm going to, again, configure these attributes. Whoop, I'm in the wrong one. Sorry about that. Let's cancel. And I'm working with my kilometer markers. So let's go back here and configure those pop-ups once again. Here we go. Now, I'm going to take this out, and I'm going to say marker ID. And I'm just going to choose this from the list. I'm going to configure my attributes. I'm going to remove that marker ID from the pop-up. Click OK. Click OK. Now let's see what the results are. And now you can see that it is just K32 with a coordinate. Well, I'm still not satisfied with that, and you shouldn't be either. So again, you really need to come in and take the time to change this. Now I'm going to say marker ID colon and a space, and I've got that feature 3. Remember, that is the actual attribute. I'm going to say OK, and now let's see what the results are. There we go, marker ID. I'm really satisfied with that, so I'm going to keep that as is. So I've configured, my pop-ups are already enabled. My interpretive sign pop-up is already configured because I made that feature layer, that feature service, published from ArcMap, and I set my aliases when I published that feature service. But my kilometer markers were uploaded as a zip file, so I had to manually go in and change those pop-ups to have a reflective of meaningful information. So that's all there is to it. I hope you enjoyed this short video, and I hope you have a wonderful day.